Have you ever started a diet feeling so motivated, like this time you were really going to do it, and then a few weeks later, you're right back where you started? Maybe the scale moved at first. Maybe you were on track for a bit, but somehow between life, kids, weekends, exhaustion, it just didn't stick. At some point, you've probably asked yourself, why does this keep happening to me? And if that question has ever crossed your mind, you're not alone. Here's the part most people don't realize. Think of starting a diet like trying to build a house. Most people jump straight into decorating, picking meals, workouts, macros, without ever checking the foundation. So when things start cracking a few weeks in, they assume they did something wrong. But the problem wasn't effort. It was skipping the setup. There are a few things your body and your life need in place before a diet can actually work. And if even one of them is missing, everything feels harder than it needs to be. And that's what we're talking about today. I want to walk you through the 5 things you must do before starting any diet, especially if you're tired of starting over. Here's what usually happens. You decide you want to lose weight, so you jump straight into action. You cut calories, you clean up your eating, you add workouts, you try to be good, and for a little while it works. But then hunger ramps up, energy drops, and life gets busy. And eventually you stop. And most people walk away thinking, I just couldn't stick to it. But that's not actually what happened. Here's a better way to think about it. Starting a diet without doing the setup, it's like getting in the car knowing you want to go somewhere, but never putting the address into the GPS. You start driving, you make turns, you're definitely moving. But eventually you realize you're tired, you're frustrated, and you don't even know if you're going the right direction. So you pull over, not because you're lazy, but because wandering around aimlessly is exhausting. That's what most diets feel like. A lot of effort, a lot of restriction, but no clear system guiding you through real life. And when that happens, your body responds exactly how it's designed to. It pushes back, hunger gets louder, cravings increase, motivation fades. Not because your body is broken, but because it's reacting to a plan that was never meant to be lived inside long term. That's why before starting another diet, you have to stop asking, how do I lose weight faster? And start asking, how do I lose weight in a way my body and my life can actually support? That question is what separates short-term results from results that last. And when you start asking that question, how do I lose weight in a way my body and my life can actually support? Something else usually comes up. Because even when you understand why diets haven't worked, even when you stop blaming yourself, things still don't stick unless this part is clear. This is thing number 2. Before you change what you eat, before calories, macros, or workouts, you have to decide who you're becoming. And I know that can sound a little abstract, so let me explain what I mean. If your only goal is, I want to lose 15 pounds, everything you do is tied to motivation. When motivation is high, you're all in. When motivation dips, which it always does, things start slipping. But when you decide, I'm becoming someone who takes care of her body, eats real meals, and doesn't spiral over one off day, your decisions start coming from a different place. You stop asking, is this perfect? And you start asking, is this something I can actually keep doing? That shift matters more than people realize because most women don't struggle with knowing what to do. They struggle with staying consistent when life gets busy, stressful, or unpredictable. And that's where identity comes in. When your identity is still, I'm someone who diets when I'm motivated, you'll always end up back in the same cycle. But when your identity becomes, I'm someone who shows up even when it's not perfect, everything changes. So before you start another diet, pause and ask yourself, who am I trying to become? Not just what am I trying to lose? And if you're committed to doing this differently this time, just comment me below. Because that decision sets the tone for everything that comes next. This brings me to thing number 3, and this is where most people mess it up. Before you start another diet, you need one non-negotiable habit. Just one. Not a full routine, not a perfect day. One thing that happens even when everything else falls apart. Because most people don't fail diets because they're inconsistent overall. They fail because when one thing slips, everything slips. You miss a workout, so the day feels ruined. You eat off your kid's plate, so you tell yourself you'll start over tomorrow. And suddenly you're back in the same on again, off again cycle. A non-negotiable habit breaks that. It gives you something steady to come back to on messy days. That habit could be hitting protein at breakfast, going for a short walk, drinking enough water. It doesn't have to be impressive. It just has to be consistent. And here's the important part. This isn't about doing the bare minimum. It's about building momentum you can actually sustain. When one habit stays in place, even on hard days, you stop training your brain to believe that progress only counts when everything is perfect. You're still showing up, you're still reinforcing the identity you just decided on. So before you worry about doing more, ask yourself, what's the one thing I can commit to even when the day goes sideways? And if you want help figuring that out, I put together a free Before You Diet checklist. It helps you narrow down what your non-negotiable habit should be, what's actually realistic for your life right now, and what to focus on before cutting calories. It's linked below, and it's a really good place to start if you've been feeling stuck. This leads right into thing number 4, and this one is big, especially if you're a mom. You have to stop trying to diet like you don't have kids. And I don't mean that in a dramatic way. I mean it very practically. Most diets are built for someone who has uninterrupted time, can eat when they want, can plan perfectly, and isn't constantly reacting to everyone else's needs. If that's not your reality, the plan is going to feel hard no matter how motivated you are. Here's what I see all the time. You skip breakfast because mornings are chaos. You snack on your kids' food because it's there. You wait too long to eat, then you feel out of control later. And then you tell yourself you need more discipline. But the problem isn't discipline. It's that the plan was never built for your life. Before starting another diet, you need systems that work inside real life. That looks like eating actual meals and not just grabbing whatever's left. Short workouts that don't require perfect timing. Protein you can grab when things get busy. A plan for evenings, weekends, and eating out. Not because you're weak, but because you're human. If your plan only works when everything goes right, it's not a good plan. And this part matters because when life inevitably gets busy, sick kids, schedule changes, exhaustion, you don't need more willpower. You need something to fall back on. This is the difference between constantly feeling behind and feeling like you can stay in it even when the week isn't perfect. Because consistency doesn't come from trying harder. It comes from removing friction. And most moms are trying to push through friction instead of designing around it. This brings me to thing number 5. And honestly, this is the one that decides whether any of this works long term. Before you start another diet, you need to decide how you're going to handle messy days. Not if they happen, when they happen, because they will. You're going to miss a workout. You're going to eat something that wasn't planned. You're going to have days where you're tired, short on time, or just not in it. And if your plan for those days is, I'll restart Monday, you already know how that story ends. What actually keeps people stuck isn't the off day. It's the spiral after the off day. So before you start, you need to answer this question. What does still showing up look like when the day doesn't go as planned? Maybe it means you still hit your non-negotiable habit. Maybe it means you eat your next meal normally instead of trying to fix the day. Maybe it means you move on without punishing yourself. That's not lowering the bar, that's staying in the game. Because progress doesn't come from perfect weeks, it comes from fewer restarts. And the people who get results aren't the ones who never mess up. They're the ones who don't let one messy day turn into a full reset. If you decide this before you start, everything feels different. There's less pressure, less urgency, less of that I blew it feeling. And that's how this becomes something you can actually live with, not just something you survive for a few weeks. So, just to bring this all together before you move on. Before starting any diet, you need to 1, understand why diets haven't worked and stop blaming yourself. 2, decide who you're becoming, not just what you're trying to lose. 3, choose one non-negotiable habit you can stick to on messy days. 4, stop trying to diet like you don't have kids. 5, decide ahead of time how you'll handle days that don't go as planned. None of these are extreme. None of them are complicated. But skipping even one of them is usually why things fall apart a few weeks in. If you want help actually putting this into practice right now, I put together a free Before You Diet checklist. It walks you through the 5 things we talked about today and helps you figure out what to focus on first, what might be missing for you, and how to set things up so this doesn't turn into another restart. It's linked below, and it's a really solid next step if you want clarity before changing anything. Here's the truth. Diets don't fail because you don't want it badly enough. They fail because you started without a mindset shift, a system, and a plan for real life. When those things aren't in place, it doesn't matter how motivated you are, eventually something gives. But when you take the time to do these 5 things before you start, everything feels different. There's less pressure, less urgency, and a lot fewer restarts. And if you're being honest with yourself, which one of these hit you the hardest? If this video was helpful, make sure to give it a thumbs up. It really helps my channel. And if you want more realistic weight loss and strength training content for busy moms, don't forget to subscribe. I'll link another video right here that builds on this and will help you avoid some of the most common mistakes I see all the time. So watch that one next. Thanks for being here, and I'll see you in the next one.